Welcome to Talk to Me Africa, everybody. Today I shall be talking about real estate, but not about real estate investment, which I have talked about on this show, but real estate in the sense of selling, buying, renting properties. Today I will be talking with my sister from Cameroon, Lesley Chinanga. Let me introduce her to you in a very brief way. A realtor is a professional who can help clients buy, sell, or rent properties. They also provide expertise knowledge on market conditions, pricing, and negotiating deals. They are also knowledgeable about legal and regulatory aspects of real estate transactions. Today, my guest is Lesley Chinanga. She is also known as Lesley the Realtor or the Queen of Real Estate. She is a Minnesota-based realtor with a track record of closing real estate deals. I follow you on social media, and girl, you are on the roll. You are the queen of real estate. I give that to you. Welcome to
Thank
Talk to
you.
Me Africa, Lesley. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to being on your show. So thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here today. Before I get into the crux of real estate and real estate agents, tell us a
Mhm.
fun fact about Lesley.
Oh boy. I don't know if it's that much of a fun fact. I always try to challenge myself, do new things, learn new things. So
Yeah.
if I'm not learning, I feel like I'm dying. So I'm always looking for the next thing to learn about.
I think that's a true fun fact because I did some research and I thought, wait, isn't she a pharmacist? How come you're such a glamour in the space of real estate? So that's a good fun fact. How did you get into real estate?
Oh my gosh, it's I've done so many things. IT, Mary Kay, I tried so many things and I was
Mary
just
Kay, I remember. Yes, I think
yeah, and I had a Mary Kay car too. Yeah, so I tried so many things, but a lot of them didn't quite fit. Like it was like, it's okay, but I didn't quite enjoy it as much as I enjoy real estate.
Mhm.
But for real estate, I started out just trying to invest in real estate. I said I'm at the top of my career as a pharmacist. I can't grow any further. I can't grow any further. Inflation seems to be growing faster than my income. I'm like, I need to
Mhm.
diversify. So I said, everybody says real estate is the best way to build wealth. So maybe I should give it a try. And why not try to get my own license? So got the license. The thing that really instead of investing like I had hoped to do, when I got the license, I was still working full time. I didn't really have the time to put in to do my real estate business. But then the cost of maintaining my license, it's so expensive. So I said to myself, if I am spending this much money to maintain this license, I may as well make money out of it, at least use it to pay for it. And so I
Yeah.
started telling people I sell houses, I'm a realtor. A few people trusted me with their business. And long story short, when I started getting the business, I said, I'm one of those people, I need to be extremely good at whatever I do.
Mhm.
I need to know it as much as possible. And so I started investing the time to do the research, to do the work, to educate people.
Mhm.
And just by educating people, it motivates them to buy. There are a lot of people who don't think that they can buy a house for
Mhm.
whatever misconception they had before. But
Mhm.
with the educational video, they started calling and like, oh yeah, you said this thing. I didn't think I could buy. And that's how I've been getting my clients. So,
Mhm.
and that's how I got into real estate.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are rocking it. Now, let's talk about the process of buying a house. Like you said, people don't know they can buy a house. People think you have to make a lot of money to buy a house. But I think there are houses of different categories. And what you want, you can always work with a realtor like you based on your budget, and you can
Mhm.
always own a home. So if I
That's
come to you and say, Lesley, I want to buy a house, I know nothing about buying a house. Where do you start from? Maybe, do I have a job? Yes, I do, right?
yeah.
So how do you take me to the process of
Right.
a newbie who wants to buy a
Right.
house?
So there are some questions that were asked in general, like have you been working about
Mm,
2 years? It doesn't necessarily have to be all from the US, as long as you have a documented income back home that you can prove that you were working, maybe in Africa, some other place. That counts towards your 2 years. Have you had gaps in employment? If yes, can you explain why you had those gaps? Because the lender, they will ask you all those questions. How much are you making? Do you work full time? Are you a contract worker? Um, do you have a permanent job? How bad is your credit? Just general questions like that. Then I can determine if you are ready or if we need to do some work. But after explaining the process of buying a home to you, so you know what to expect, I connect you to a lender, and then you can work with them to get the pre-approval. If they don't pre-approve you right away, they'll at least tell you what you need to do to qualify for that home. So I always tell people you don't have to wait until you have perfect credit or you feel like you're ready. Let us have that conversation. When we have that conversation, then you can determine for yourself if you're ready or not. And if you're not ready, we will tell you what you need to do to get ready for the home buying process.
So ready is very fluid, right? I'm
Yes.
ready because I have a job, but my credit is bad.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is a bad credit and how ready I am? My job. Okay, I'm working at McDonald's. I make $12 an hour. I work full time. It's a permanent job. I'm ready because I work.
Yeah.
My credit is 625. What do you think?
Well, it depends on how much you make at McDonald's. I mean, minimum wage has gone up. So forth. Do you work overtime? Are you to buy a house? They look at your debt to income ratio as well. So there are some people who may be making 500,000 a year and they have debt of about 450. They have a lot of, so they can't buy a house. There are people who make a lot of money, they have bad credit. So a lot of things have to come together for you to be able to buy that house. If you're working at McDonald's, yeah, you may have everything right, but your income may not be enough to buy that house. Or there may be a house out there that you can qualify for. At the very beginning, I always say start with what you can qualify for. It doesn't, most people start with a starter home. It's not their dream home. But over time, as you build equity, you can take that money out and then use to put down towards your dream home. So start somewhere. So instead of paying some other person's rent or mortgage, you can be paying yours and building your equity. And then you can use that money down the road, sell that house, use that equity and upgrade to something that you like better. So if you don't quite qualify income-wise, yeah, you may be looking at co-signers, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there are many ways we can go around that. We can try to figure out what down payment assistance you qualify for and things like that. And then we'll
Now you
let you know
mentioned
what is
co-signer, right? Who
yeah.
can co-sign for who? And when you say they're good and bad, let's talk about who can co-sign for somebody and what are the good and the bad aspects of being a co-signer. Can your friend co-sign for you? Do I have to be related to you by blood or by marriage? Some proof of relationship to be a co-signer to start with?
So usually when you need a co-signer, it's either because your income it's not quite enough to get you approved for that house, or your credit is not, you may have the income, but your credit is not good enough. So they need some person who has what you are missing to add to buy that house. Now it can be anybody who accepts to do it. It can be that person. I've had situations where um, people will just randomly ask somebody and the person does not know what they are going in for and they sign and later on they are tied down. There are advantages and disadvantages. One, I mean, it depends to who, the buyer or to the person who is co-signing. The advantages are mostly to the person who is
Who's
the buyer
buying?
of that
Yeah.
house. Because when you co-sign a loan for somebody, you are financially tied to that loan. So if that person is not able to pay their mortgage on time, then they're gonna come after you. You have to help them pay. I mean, if you help somebody co-sign and they maintain good credit or they build their own credit or they can qualify for that house at some point on their own, then you can be taken off that loan. Sorry.
That's all right. It's your phone. This is very informal, so it's okay to just turn it off or something. It's interesting. I mean, if I help you co-sign for something. So I am also bearing the responsibility of that debt. Right. So
Yeah.
if the house costs $500,000 and I co-signed for you, does it say how much I am co-signing for, or it just says I'm a co-signer, and so that entire debt is so part of my debt?
That entire debt is part of your debt.
All right.
It is part of your debt. So the other thing with co-signing a loan for somebody, so you can be a co-signer. You're only, I don't want to say, it's not even a benefit. You are financially tied to that.
You are.
But if you are not added to the title, you have no
Mm,
claims to that house. So if that person decides to sell it, you cannot make a decision as to whether they sell or they don't sell. You don't have any benefit when they sell that house. So you may as well ask to be added to the title if you have to co-sign, so you can have a
co-sign the
say in
house.
saying, hey, okay, I need us to sell this house now if
That
that person
makes
is not paying.
that
But yeah,
makes sense.
co-signing I usually say it should be maybe somebody who's really close to you who's trying to help you, and you intend to really work to be able to qualify for that home on your own.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
are first-time home buyer benefits that if you're a first-time home buyer, you can benefit from. But if you've
Mm-hmm.
never owned a home before and you co-sign a loan for somebody, now you've just lost that first-time home buyer benefit that you could. The next time you're trying to buy a house, maybe instead of that 3% that you were supposed to put
Put
down,
them.
you may be
Yeah.
looking at 20%. So I tell most people before you co-sign a loan for somebody, do your research,
Mm.
know the advantages and the disadvantages, and do it knowing that you know what is not in it for you, or what benefits or what disadvantages you,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges that you may face down the road.
Mm-hmm. It's like giving somebody money and knowing that they're going to pay you, but you don't expect them to pay you. In case they don't pay you, be okay. Just,
Yes, yes,
thinking in
yes.
that light. And
Yeah,
you
you're just
mentioned
trusting them
you're
that
just
you
trusting them, and you really have to trust them wholeheartedly, and to do that. So first time home buyers, I know you can put down 3%.
Mhm.
And so if you buy a house and you sell after, say, 5 years, are you now a first time home buyer again?
Yeah, if you sell that home and you're going to buy another home, as long as it's your primary residence, the down payment requirement is low, could be 3-5%. But if you decide to rent it out and buy another primary residence, your down payment requirement is still 3.5%. And no, it's 5% in that case if you rent it out.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you choose to live in your house and
Mm-hmm.
then buy an investment property and rent it out, your down payment requirement is about 20%. Unless you're buying a house as a secondary residence,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably about at least 50 miles away from your primary residence. There are just so many conditions.
So
Then
many
your down
conditions. Yeah.
payment requirement can still be 3 or 5% in that case.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I was
you
gearing
really.
towards a lot more like people say you're a first-time home buyer, and
Mm.
I researched and learned that if I buy a home in 2020 and I sell in 2025 and I want to buy again, that makes me a first-time home buyer because I've had that house as a
Yes.
primary residence for over 3 years.
So yes, yes. So when you're a primary residence, primary sorry, first time home buyer, you
Mm-hmm.
buy that house. When you sell it, you can buy another home with a low down payment, but you are not going to have the other benefits that first time home buyers have. Like some of them, okay, like now we have the first generation down payment assistance. It's like $32,000. I mean, yeah, Minnesota. For first generation home buyers, you have owned a home, you won't have that benefit. Your down payment requirement may be low, but you don't qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people may qualify if they have not owned a home. So you did own a home, but now you haven't owned a home for at least 3 years. You are
Mm-hmm.
a first time home buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Now, credit score is a big thing in this country. You want to buy anything, look at how good your credit score is. What is the minimum that you should have, a credit score number, to qualify to buy a house? People always say 70, 700 and something, but the 60 seem to be not very interesting in people's ears. So people who are in the 600 credit score, are they bad credit people? I mean, in air quotation, is it better to have your credit score in the 700s? I know it is better, but again, in the 600s, am I disqualified from buying a home?
No, higher is always better.
Better,
Higher
yeah.
is always better. But most lenders don't like it. You can actually buy a house with a credit score as low as 500.
Oh,
But
wow.
in that case, from 500 to 580, it's a higher risk. So they require you to put about 10% down. From 580 to 620, 640, you qualify for an FHA loan, which is a government-backed loan.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy a credit score with buy a house with credit scores that low.
Mm-hmm.
However, higher is better because that determines the kind of interest rate that you will get. So if you have a higher credit score, in most cases you get a better interest rate. But there are some exceptions. If you're buying brand new homes,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the lender just have a flat range. So they say if you qualify for a house, we are giving you 4.99% interest rate. So they'll say for FHA loan, which is usually between 580 and 620, they'll say if you have that credit score, we can give you 4.99%. So it doesn't matter at that point if you're at 620 or if you're 580, you will get that interest rate. They may say if you qualify for a conventional loan, which requires a higher credit score of in those 600s and above, will give you this interest rate. So it doesn't matter at that point if you have 650 or you have 800 credit score,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get that. So that's the exception. So I tell people you don't necessarily have to get it up to 700, 800.
Mm-hmm.
We can look at the market and take advantage of whatever deals are available.
Mm-hmm. Can everyone qualify for the FHA loan? Federal Housing Assistance,
Conventional
I think.
loan is actually the preferred. It's actually the preferred one, just because FHA loan is tied down to a mortgage insurance, which you pay for the life of the loan.
Mm.
So there's two types of insurance. You have homeowners insurance that you benefit from, you
Yep.
protecting your house, protecting yourself, and then mortgage insurance protects the banks,
Yep.
and you're required to have it. So with FHA loan, you have to pay that for the life of that loan. So if you have a 30-year term, you're
Yeah,
paying
for
that for
30
30 years,
years. Wow.
unless you refinance and
Ooh.
switch to a conventional loan. You can refinance. So I tell people all the time, FHA loan is not necessarily bad. You have an upfront uh, premium that you have to pay as part of your closing cost. So that is the biggest disadvantage. But if it's probably about $1,000 to $2,000 in many cases. But once you pay that, you're probably paying mortgage insurance, probably about the same as somebody with conventional loan. With conventional loan, once you've paid off 20% of that purchase price of your loan from what you bought, right? Once you've paid off 20%, you can ask your loan servicer, ask them to take it off. Or if you don't, it will automatically fall off after you've paid off about 22%. But
Okay. All
yeah,
right. Yeah,
the
that's
FHA loan, it stays for 30 years unless now you refinance and switch it to conventional
to
loan.
conventional loan.
Yeah.
Refinancing sounds good, but doesn't that make you pay your mortgage for a longer period of time? And does it bring down your payment? Does it take it up your monthly payment?
Not necessarily. There are different kinds of, when you refinance, you can ask for one of two things, of many things actually. So when you refinance, for many people, they want to lower their payments.
Mm-hmm.
So they can say, hey, I need you to in most cases is when interest rates have gone down. So
Yeah.
maybe you had 5% interest rates, now they've gone down to 3%.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, I just want the new interest rate and I want to maintain the term. So if you already paid off 5 years, you want to maintain, you just want 25 years to be left on that loan.
Mm-hmm.
By you taking that new interest rate, your monthly payments are lower. For
Mm-hmm.
some people, they say, I want to go as low as possible. That's when they go back to 30 years. And then with the newer, lower interest rate, their payments are significantly lower. But in the long run, you end up paying more in interest. For other people, you can say, all right, interest rates have gone down. I have 25 years left. I want the new interest rates and I want to continue paying the same amount of money that I was paying. Now
Okay.
that will reduce the number of years that you
Yeah.
have left on that loan, because that will make you pay it off faster. Because at this new interest rate, maybe you were supposed to be paying 2,500 monthly, but because you were already paying 3,000, it's like you're making now an extra $500
Payment
payment.
towards it.
So you
Yeah.
can decide what direction you want it to go. If your goal is to have the lowest payment, okay, you can take it back to 30 years, but you can maintain the number of years that you have left.
This
If you
is so interesting. It sounds like, the bank would always win. The
yeah,
lender would always win because if you are lowering your interest, you're going to pay longer. If you are trying to cut short how long you pay, you're going to pay higher. Um, I want to know about how do you help yourself to make the best choice? If I have a great credit and I want to have a 30-year mortgage, but maybe make it shorter. Do you advise that person to make more towards the principal payment or to pay off the interest? Or do you advise somebody who wants to pay it off faster and stay on the 30-year mark?
okay, so there are so many ways to go about that. One of the easiest ways is to, like, from the start, do bi-weekly payments. So instead of paying that mortgage monthly, you can split, let's assume it was $3,000. You can split that in two, and every 2 weeks you pay 1.5. When you do that, you notice that in a year you would have made two extra half payments, because remember, for those with bi-weekly pay,
Yep.
they have some month that they have like three
Three
paychecks
paychecks. Yep.
in a year. So you still make that payment during
Mm.
those months, those
Mhm.
extra, that when you have that extra pay.
Mhm.
Just by doing that, for some people, it reduces about 60,000 in interest over this 30 years term that
Wow.
you could have paid off that loan, or it reduces the number of years to that you were supposed to pay that.
Mhm.
For other people, if you have money, put it towards the principal. Put it towards the principal.
Mhm.
So if you choose to make, just say, an extra payment a year,
Mhm.
it reduces about 6 years of payments. If you choose to make two extra payments a year, it may be 11 to 15 years you're knocking off your mortgage. Well, a lot of the payments, money we pay, goes towards your interest,
Mhm.
especially initially when you start paying that house.
Mhm.
So if you can focus during those first years and dump as much money towards your principal, that will help you pay off that house faster. For those who can afford it, they can go with a 15-year term. But for many people, that means you are paying like constantly. You always have to be paying a lot more money monthly, and it can be scary to somebody. So instead of 3,000, you're like making you have to definitely pay 5,000 a month. If you have that kind of money, then go with a 15-year term or 10-year term. But I usually say it's better for you to decide to put extra money from time to time or go with that bi-weekly payment.
Mhm. This is a great tip for people who own homes and you're thinking about how that 30-year mortgage
Yeah,
is going to just be too long for me. Just make a couple extra payment, like you said,
yeah.
and you are on your way to eradicating a lot of money from your mortgage. Now, what tips, those are great tips, by the way, about how to pay off your loan. If somebody comes to you and they have bad credit, what tips do you tell them to help them rebuild their credit to get to a level where they can come back and be ready to buy a home?
All right. So it just depends on how bad and what is making it bad. For some people who are new to credit, they just came into the country, now they have to start building. I usually would say get added to another person's credit card as an authorized user. They don't have to give you any of the cards. They don't even have to order a card for you. Just by that person making their payments consistently, that is the fastest way your credit can go up as a person who is new to credit. For some people, they can go to the bank and say, hey, I give you, because most banks won't even give you a line of credit when you're new to credit. So for some people, they go to the bank and say, hey, okay, I want to give you $1,000. Give me a credit card for $1,000. I'll be using that and paying it off. As you use it and pay it off, the bank starts to increase your credit limit. And that's how you build credit too. But the fastest way for most people who are new is just to be added as an authorized user. As long as that person keeps their utilization below 30% and they're using it and paying it off, your credit will go up very fast.
Very fast.
For other people, it's like, what is causing it? Have you not been paying your bills? Have you not been paying your loans on time? You need to catch up. Like, you need to start doing that. For other people, it just be maybe collection. You can try to dispute some of them. For some, you can call whatever collection or call whoever you owe, the company you owe, and say, hey, I want to pay for delete. Now you put it, this is on my record, I'll pay it if you delete it. They don't have anything to lose. It's better to ask. In most cases, they'll accept. If they don't, at least you try. So there are so many tips depending on what is causing your credit to be low that we can give you. Sometimes it's just an error in the system that is messing you up. And if it's extremely bad, then we'll have you work with a credit repair company to fix that.
I saw one of your videos where you talked about things that would prevent you from buying a home. And you mentioned pending divorce, lying about your job. And I go, wait, what has a pending divorce got to do with that? So if I'm in the process of getting a divorce and I want to buy a house, we're separated, we don't live together. I want to buy a house, the divorce is still going through. How does that affect me from buying a house? Because I might be paying what's it called, spousal support or something. Explain that to my audience.
I think the biggest thing is because you are not yet completely divorced. Now, when you're going through that process, you guys are like, they're trying to figure out who's supposed to own what goes to what person. When you buy that house, now it gets included in that whole process. So you want to wait until all that is over before once they find out, it's like, okay, hold on. You have to wait, let it go through, and then now you are no longer tied to that person. Because Minnesota law, it takes 1 to buy a house and 2 to own it. As long as you're married, during that divorce process, you guys have to like share that house as well. And if you have to sell a house that you already own during that divorce, regardless of whether it was one person who bought it, you both benefit from the proceeds of it. You have a say in the sale of that house. Yeah.
And you talked about job as well, lying about your job if it's a new or an old job. So if I make, let's say, $200,000 in the job, I leave the job and I go to a next job where I make the same amount of money and I want to buy a house during that same period. I've been at that job for 6 months. Does that matter? I have the money
No,
to buy.
in that case, it doesn't. If it's the same income,
Okay, income level.
you can change job. In that case, it doesn't matter. We say if you're changing jobs, make sure you're getting the same pay or more. Then there is no problem. But the problem comes in because most times they look at 2 years history. In order to use your overtime, for most lenders, you have to be doing that overtime for at least a year. And for others, it's at least 2 years. So if you have a job that you're working and they're say paying you $20 an hour and you're working a lot of overtime, now you change jobs and go to another job that pays you that same $20,
but no overtime.
they cannot count your overtime in that new job. So now you would have been able to qualify with that first job for something. But now with the second job, the new job that you have now, you qualify for less, or you may not even qualify for a house. So Yes, there are some exceptions, but we just say, let us know before you make that decision so we can tell you if it's a good thing or if it's not.
What is the current interest rate?
Ooh, it's been going between the 6 and the 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6 goes down to the 7.02, and then next day it's like 6 point. It depends. For FHA, it tends to be a little lower. Conventional loan is a little higher. So, but most of them are between 6 and 7.
All right. So when I want to buy a house, I can negotiate the interest rate to an extent, right, with the
Yeah,
lender.
not so much, but yeah,
Not
to an
so much.
extent.
There's a little wiggle room out there, just a
There's a
little bit.
little wiggle room. But with new construction, sometimes they would accept to give you a lower interest rate so that you can buy their house. But with lenders in the market in general, just not with new construction, new home builders, it's a lot harder because the rate is not set by them. But some of them, depending on, so there are some lenders, they have lower interest rates. Like I work with some lenders, they are like a wholesaling lending company. So I don't know how they are able to get their rates lower, but in general, it will be a little lower than other lenders. But
Okay.
now new home builders have the advantage that they have a lot of money. They can buy down those rates. They can put money towards buying down those rates. And so that's what they do now to encourage people to use their own lenders. So you may see people who have been working with lenders out there 2 years, 3 years, and now they are ready to buy. So now they are ready to buy, and then they go to a new home builder. Their lender outside was giving them 7%, and this new home builder say, "Hey, if you use my lender, I give you 4.5%."
I mean, is that real in today's market, 4.5%? We're just throwing a
It's
number
yeah,
out there.
lenders hate it, but it's happening. So they do what they can to make you use their own lender. They may say, "Oh, we'll give you 5.9%." And the other lender was giving you 7. That's like a $200 monthly payment difference. So just from that 6 to 7, it's about $200 monthly
That can go
payment.
to your electricity bill or your water bill.
Yeah, so it's up to you now. Do you want to be loyal to the person who has been helping you all this while, or do you want to be a, how do I
You
say,
want to save
snitch?
this?
I say, hey, I need to take care. I need to make it work for me. I need to make this work for me, and then go. But most people go the new home builders lender. Yeah.
So buying cash, if I want to buy a house, cash, I have the cash to buy a house. It's in my bank account. I can prove that I have money to buy a house. Does the interest rate matter? Do I have to go through all
No,
of this? I just pay
interest
cash?
rate,
No.
because yeah, it's only when you're taking a loan that you worry about interest rate. If you have cash, it doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't really
And you have
matter.
more negotiating power because when you're buying with a loan, they have to do an appraisal, they have to
Yeah.
do so many things. Sometimes, depending on the kind of loan you get, they may like, hey, this house has to be in this condition. We don't want to see this paint peeling here. We don't. So sellers don't want that. So if a seller has the option of going with a cash buyer and somebody who's taking a loan, they will go with the cash buyer. A lot of cash buyers know that now. So they know they have negotiating power and they can come and you take 20,000, 30,000 off this price. It's up to you if you
Now,
want to accept it or if you,
yeah.
yeah.
What if I want to build from scratch? Is a process the same? If I want to build a house from scratch and I need to get a loan to do so,
Mhm.
do I have to still go through the process of having, what's the word, of having pre-approval from
Mhm.
a lender and then working with you to get that new construction started? Is it the same process?
So there are two kinds of new construction. You have from the ground up, which I believe is what you're talking about, where you come up with your
Yep.
plan, you find an architect to come
Mm-hmm.
up with a plan, find the land, find the builder, and
Mm-hmm.
then they build that for you. So you're asking if you still have to go through that pre-approval
Yes. If
process.
I say I want to build my own,
Yes.
do I still
Yeah.
go through that
Yeah.
process?
Yeah. So for some people, they start by just buying the land and waiting. Somebody may say, I want to buy the land cash and then I'll get a loan to buy the house. Some builders can say, hey, I can find, some banks will give you a loan that will help you buy that land and build that house at the
Mhm.
same time. So it's the same process. You still have to get pre-approved,
Mhm.
but yeah, it takes time to build.
Next time,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, your videos are very captivating, and I love that your daughter helps you to make them. Who helps you with all those ideas? There's one where somebody was in the back in the booth of your car, and you said your realtor doesn't really care. You can use somebody else. I don't really mind. I have no remorse. And then you open the booth, somebody is there because they use a different realtor. Where do you come up with all those creative ideas? Does somebody help you, or is it all yours?
Sometimes some of them, it's like I've seen something and then I was like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, I think let me tweak it this way to make it work for me. And
Mhm.
sometimes like, I wonder what this would, if I tried this,
Mhm.
what would the reaction be? And a
Mhm.
lot of times I'm like, I'm sure people will be very angry. I just locked up somebody in the trunk, and then people say you're crazy. Some people love it. Some people say, how dare you? I'm just like, whatever. I just watch it, have fun, and forget about
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of them, when an idea comes to my head, I just write it down.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's something that I've watched, maybe related to some other thing completely. I'm like, how can I put this in real estate to make it
Mhm.
educational but fun?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Even the one on Valentine's Day about your boyfriend and your this Valentine's Day, but again, you put it into real estate, which make a lot of
yes,
sense. I like it.
yeah, yeah.
What's the market like where you are in Minnesota? The interest rates are very high. I mean, 7% is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to pay back in interest rate. What is the buying spirit like? Do you think it's up and down, or is it smooth, or is it
To
plateauing
be
a bit?
quite honest with you, winters are usually slow, but this
Mm,
winter we have seen so much competition. You put
mm,
in an offer, it's like, oh, we accepted another offer. That usually happens in spring or summer. So
mm.
people are tired of waiting. The lowest interest rates were during COVID. And since then, it's just been, even though it went to about 8 and then came down, now it's just hovering between 6 and 7.
It had been 8%.
Around about right after COVID, it went up all the way to 8. Or in the past, in 1981, it was 16%. So rates usually will go up and then come. There's always that cycle. But the one thing is, I tell people don't wait to buy because
Yeah.
prices are going up. You're waiting for rates to drop. It
Mhm.
may drop to a level that you want, maybe like 5, 10 years later. But at what price? You pay now maybe $50,000 to $100,000 more. It doesn't make sense for you to wait.
Mhm.
And when it drops, then there's so much more competition because everybody who has been waiting, they are now back in the money market, trying now to compete for the limited houses that are available.
Mhm. Now, talking about houses that are available, townhomes and single family homes. I understand that there's a lot of difference when you buy a single family home versus a townhome. Things like the town home has um house owner association tax that you have to pay. So what would you advise? Is it better to get a single family home or a townhome? Which one would in the long run save you more money?
I don't know if it's a decision that is based on money. Our townhomes, in most cases, are cheaper. So for
Mhm.
a lot of people who earn less, they may want a single family home, but that is what they qualify for. What they qualify for can get them into a townhome. It's not bad. Get a townhome, live in it for a few years. If you want to sell it or rent it, you can then upgrade to a single family home.
Mhm.
But the main decision when it comes to townhome or single family home,
Mhm.
for most people, is their career. So you
Mhm.
have people like air hostesses, traveling nurses,
Mhm.
pilots. Someone has to mow your lawn.
Mhm.
Someone has to remove snow from your house. So if you are not available, you can't just leave that there. So in those cases, those people prefer to get a townhome because the association now maintains your lawn, they maintain they'll mow your lawn, they'll remove your snow. So that is usually the deciding factor. With associations too, they have many rules. You
Yeah.
cannot park here, your trash can be out at this time. There's a maximum number of cars you can have. So they have those rules, which when you're buying a house, they give it to you that these are our rules. You give you a few days, you read through them and decide if you like them or not. If you don't like them, look for another house. But if you're okay with it, then you have to abide by those rules. But the thing with association now is the association fees usually range from there are some associations that I'm starting to see that with single family homes now. It may be like 35, $100 or so. They just take care of your lawn and your
The
snow
snow and all
removal.
that. Yeah.
Yes. But with townhomes, condos, theirs is usually more, I don't know. They have common areas that everybody, swimming pools, all those things that everybody shares. They maintain the exterior of your house. So you're only responsible for the inside. You can't just go out and start painting the exterior or say, oh no, I change this grass to rocks. No, they take care of all of that. So if you're okay with that, then it is fine. There are a lot of townhomes now that look like single family home. But you get inside, you can't even tell if it's a townhome. But for some people, they don't want to share that wall.
Yeah.
Others, like, I don't want to pay 200, 300
Extra for that.
for what they are doing. I can do it myself. So that's how many people decide. One, can you
Okay.
afford a single family home? If not,
Okay.
yeah, then you're stuck with that. What
Yeah.
is your career like?
VA loans are something that people talk about a lot, and it's a government-backed mortgage option. And this is for veterans, people who have been in some kind of military service in this country. How
Mhm.
advantageous is that compared to conventional loan?
Yeah, the biggest advantage of that is that you don't have to put any money down.
Wow.
So you can just, you're a veteran and you have that benefit, you can just buy without putting any money down. Now, if you have the money to put down, you can definitely put it down, because obviously when you put money down,
Goes
it
towards
reduce
your.
it goes towards your loan amount,
Mm-hmm.
and then it reduces your loan amount, and then it reduces your monthly payments too. But for
Mm-hmm.
somebody who does not have money to put down, they can have a head start and buy a house as a
Mm-hmm.
veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you say there's no time to buy. Any time is a good time to buy. For somebody who is still very hesitant right now, what would you tell them?
I usually say it depends. It's very difficult to time the market. Very, very difficult. I remember during COVID, when rates had gone down to 2%,
Mm-hmm.
I had people who were looking to buy, and then rates went up to 3%. I said, oh no, we're going to wait for it to come down to 2%. Guess what? They waited and waited and waited, and they just bought this year at 7% because they couldn't wait anymore. But now that same house, the price is probably about 100,000 more than what they would have paid for if they got it at that 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So even though, like, now a lot of people keep telling me, "Oh no, I hear with the new administration prices are going to go down." I say, "How? Prices of material have gone up. There is a shortage of houses. People are now selling their houses. A lot of the houses that are on the market are new construction. They are buying all these materials to build cheap labor that they were relying on from immigrants. Now, most of them are not going to work. They have to hire people that they have to pay more. How is that going to lower prices? I don't know. I mean, you can take what people are saying and say, yeah, prices are going to drop. Let me wait. What if it's been going up? New home builders, every 3 or 5 houses they sell, they jack up the prices of the next houses they are selling. So I'm trying to imagine, how would these prices go down? It's not going to happen when there is a
Yeah.
shortage of houses. It's
Wow.
not going to
It's
happen.
not. Just do it
No.
now. Whenever you're ready, just
Yeah,
do
when
it.
you're ready. Because I say if the prices go down 10,000, 20,000, you buy it now. Prices are always going up and
Wow.
down, up and down. At some point, your price will go down and go up. Even though eventually, if you draw a line, it shows that your price is slowly going up, but it will be dipping and going up. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
It
matter if you wait for
fluctuates.
it to go down 10,000 and then you buy, and then it goes up and then comes back. But just buy the house now. As long as you don't plan to live in the house just for about 2 years. Because if you're buying just for about 2 years, okay, I don't know, maybe next year it may go down. But if you plan to live in that house for 5 years or more, regardless of whether it goes up and down, you realize after those years, your
You have
price
got
is
some
way up there.
equity
Yeah,
from that house.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Now, clarify something for me. Like I said, I follow you online, and you said something about somebody bought a house, they got the keys, they took the keys back from them. What happened? Is that something that can really happen?
To be honest with you, I don't know, because one lender told me it's not possible, but this is another lender that we were on the closing table with, and he was like, he wants to tell me one of the worst experiences he's ever had. I said, what happened? He said there was a deal that they closed on, and they had to go get the keys from that person after the person had left. And I said, what happened? And he said, this person was working as a W-2 employer for somebody, right? And then in the process of buying their house, the employer said, hey, I'd like you to become my partner. It's more money. He didn't think twice about it. He accepted it. So usually they'll do when you're buying a house, maybe the day before you close or the day of closing, they'll call your employer to make sure you still work there, the nature of your work. I don't know if they did that late or they did that and didn't get a response until later after they had closed, because you may call the employer and they don't pick up. So maybe that's what happened. I'm not too sure. But come to find out, they got that key back from that person because they said when you became a partner, you became self-employed. And when you're self-employed, you need 2 years of work experience to buy a house. So now you don't have the 2 years experience to buy that house. That's what I was told. So it was just mind blowing. And then I'm thinking, okay, this person has already left with their key. You go back and take it. How do you start taking back commissions? People have been paid. How do you start calling everybody involved in that transaction to say this is no longer the case? So
But
yeah.
I would think that's like changing jobs. Like I just asked
Mhm.
earlier on, if I change jobs, the same income level, what does it matter?
That is different because if you're changing W-2,
Got
that
it.
is.
Okay. It's
But now
W2.
if you're changing from a W-2 employer to a self-employed person,
Mm-hmm.
as a self-employed person, they need to see your tax returns for 2 years to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're profitable, you're making money.
The same. Okay. Well, Lesley, I want to give you some accolades here today before we end the show. I see that you have really been the queen of real estate, and so many claps are coming to you for the good job that you do out there. I'm going to read this one from Florence Nwokoro, and she says, Lesley Chinanga, you are more than just a realtor. You are a dream architect, a hope dealer, and a trailblazer in an industry where representation matters. It does really matter because we are about I'm black. The way they sell this to me is different from being the other race. And she continues to say, you don't sell homes, you create spaces where families grow, where futures are built, and where generations' wealth begins. How do you feel to hear that? Is that from a client or from a colleague?
This is an organization I
Mm,
joined. It's a Black Business Enterprises. So I had to do a presentation at an entrepreneur summit, and their president was there. So when
mm,
she listened to it, after that, she came to me and said, I like your, oh, I'm sorry, let me turn this.
that's fine.
She said, I love your presentation. Would like to have you at the Black Business Enterprise. She invited me to it. And so I went there, saw it. I said, oh, this is a nice organization to join.
Mm-hmm,
About 3 weeks later, I decided to register for it. And
mm-hmm,
then I got that back. And it meant so much to me because when I became a realtor, I had a very good mentor. So I was going to the office about 8 hours a day, and we just work together, find ways to grow. He's an African American man. So when he asked me what my goals in real estate was, I said, I work as a pharmacist.
mm-hmm,
So for me, it's not just about selling one house or two. I need to be able to make at least as much money as I'm making in as a pharmacist,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and double that and more. And so he looked at me, he said, it's not impossible. And I don't want to discourage you, but I want to tell you this. Say, you and I have disadvantages. He said, me, that's him, right? I have two disadvantages. I am an African American man and I have an accent. He said, but have 3 disadvantages. You are African, you have an accent,
Mhm.
and you are a woman.
Mm.
So he said, in this industry, he has to work twice as much to get the same results that his Caucasian colleagues would have.
Mm.
Me, I have to work 3 times as much to get
Mm.
that same result. And so that hit me really hard. I said, so that is just to get the same result. Then how much harder do I have to work to
Yeah.
be at the top?
Yeah.
And so that is what has been my driving force. So when I get feedback and reviews like that, I mean, that brought me to tears.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just could not believe that I could get
Yeah.
to that point. So I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that people are seeing the efforts that I'm putting into
Yeah.
the work that I do.
It's interesting because I have had 2 shows in February about Black History Month and just being Black and in America and stuff like that. And one thing that came out of that, one of the shows was that, yes, they put us all in one box. When you check out boxes for a job or wherever you go that they want demographic information,
Mhm.
they ask you to
Yes.
check a box that
Yeah.
says Black or African American. So
Yes.
we are in one box,
Yes.
right? End
Yeah.
of the day, if I check that one box, they don't know if I'm African or African
Yes. Yeah.
American. And so I walk in
Mhm.
there and then I open
Yes.
my mouth and they say, okay, so there's a difference. You are not
Yes.
just Black.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not just African American, you're African. So
Yeah.
I see where your mentor is coming
Yeah.
from with you and
Yeah.
him. But when he says he has an accent, I'm like, yeah, he does have an accent because African
Yeah.
Americans do speak
Yeah.
differently. And so
Yeah.
when we show up, they look at us
Yes.
differently.
Different.
You know,
Yeah.
and we came to a conclusion on the show that we should all work together because, like he said, he has 2, you have 3, but you're
Yeah.
bundled together.
Yeah.
It's about time that we
Yeah.
of the same melanin complexion come together. And so Black excellence, I really appreciate what they're doing for
Yeah.
you and for other Black people to let them
Yes.
know that, hey, we can also shine, even
Yeah.
though we are being pushed to the back burner and made to work twice as harder as our
Yeah.
colleagues from the other race. So this is excellent. And you gave a good reply. You said being recognized by Black Business Enterprise, a powerhouse organization dedicated to uplifting Black entrepreneurs and professionals, is truly an honor. And you say to be seen for the impact I strive to make in real estate, helping families build wealth, secure homes, and create lasting legacies means so much to me. Do you hear that from people who buy homes from you after a while and say, hey, Lesley, I really love my home?
Oh yeah, I do hear that a lot. I have so many positive reviews. I have to post that someday. Like
Please
it's
do. It's
the yeah
motivating.
the feedback that people give. It's yeah because I mean when most of us were buying houses, it was like I didn't know what I was signing. I was just in it like okay, we have to have a house, go there, buy, sign. And then now that I'm doing real estate, I'm like I realized how much I did not know. I said I could have signed my life away. I had no clue. So now for me to take many of these people come to me and they say, I have no idea. I say that is who I want to work with.
Mhm.
Because I educate you now from the very beginning, what to
Mm,
expect from the process. During each stage, I continue to remind you. I say, okay, you've done this now. This is the next step. This is what we have to do now. It will take this amount of time. So it makes it easy for you. Yeah, buying a house is a stressful process, but we try to minimize it in our own way.
mhm.
So I do get a ton of positive
Yeah.
feedback. And then now that translates to referrals. People are like, you got to use my realtor. Or you have to. So it's been good.
Yeah. I mean, post them because, like I said, these do inspire people a lot to know that you're not just doing it for the money, you're
Yeah.
doing it as well for the people to get satisfaction. Because, like we all
Yeah.
know, being
Yeah.
Black in America is already tough for the African Americans themselves, and then those of us who come here as immigrants with this thick accent, like they call it,
Yeah.
it becomes harder. And that is the main way that wealth can be built through
Mhm.
equity. Now,
Yes.
talking about how wealth can be built through real estate, there's some videos going on out there about give your home to your child for $1. Is that a thing? If you have a home and you want to transfer it to your children, can you just sell it to them for $1? Is that something that you can do?
Hmm. I haven't heard
Have you
that
seen
one.
those videos?
I haven't seen that one.
Okay.
I wonder
I don't
what
think
the
it's a real thing.
I don't wonder what the rationale behind that is.
It's not to pay not to pay a lot of interest. They say like
Oh,
if you're dying, you're ailing. It's to avoid probate court as
yeah.
well. So you sign it off to your children and you say, I'm selling it to you for $1, and then they write something to you as a transfer. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I hope to get
I
to
haven't,
understand
I'm
what
not
about
too
them.
sure about that one, but I know usually they say put it in a trust and then you
Hmm.
don't go through probate. It will be handed to whoever you want it to go to. But
Mhm.
$1, yeah, do you still owe money on it?
Yeah.
How is that going to be just $1? So I'm not too sure how.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, Leslie,
I have to
yeah,
figure out.
I have learned a lot from you today. I always do. I love this show because I learn a lot from my audience. You can find Lesley the Realtor. She's also known as a queen of real estate. I believe that because she's done a lot. She's online on Facebook. Lesley the Realtor. Her email is lesleytherealtor@gmail.com. Contact her if you are looking to buying a home in Minnesota. You can also call her. The number is 651-734-5045. Lesley, any other way people can contact you?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I am everywhere. WhatsApp, that phone number. Yeah. The quickest way to reach me is if you send me a text message, I respond faster.
I said that to people too. Yeah, don't call me, just text me. Yeah, easy
Yeah.
because if I'm in a meeting,
Yeah.
I can easily
Yeah.
just, quickly
Yeah.
respond and all
Respond.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I
Yeah.
let you go, I did give an assignment to bring an African proverb, which I love to hear. And I said, African proverb or your best quote or any wise word to share with us today. Do you have one?
Yes, I do have one. And
Great.
that is really that the house of someone you love is never too far for you
Hmm.
to go to. And how that translates in real estate, if it means so much to you, if that's something that you value, you will find a way to buy that house or to achieve or accomplish that goal.
The house of someone you love is never too far for you to drive to. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Thank you, Lesley, the realtor.
Thanks for having me, and I
Thank you for
appreciate
being
you.
here.
You really do a lot of research because the kind of information that you sent me, I'm like, oh my gosh, she has to know all these things to do this show. Then imagine the different areas that you you do
Yeah,
your
my
podcast in,
show on.
your show on. So I commend you for what you do.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I
yes,
do
yeah,
learn a lot on this show.
yes,
I tell you, I was talking to somebody about autism one day. Like, do you have an autistic? I'm like, I don't have an autistic child, but I have done so many shows on
yeah,
autism that I get to understand. I was telling her,
yeah,
like, oh, you do this, do that before you go to the doctor and all that stuff. It's all a learning process. Like you say, you bought a home when you were not really informed
yeah,
about real estate. Now doing it, you
yeah,
are an expert in that field
yeah,
because you've learned and you keep learning from people who are also buying homes. I bet you all your clients have different stories. And
yes,
so the way you approach them,
yeah.
it also differs, even though
Yeah, and I
you
learn a lot
know
from
about
them
real estate.
because they come up with different situations all the time. Like, oh, I haven't
Exactly.
seen this one before. Then I have to do my research and figure out
Yeah.
how to solve it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much for being here. And I hope we can come back another time and talk about real estate. It's an open-ended
Absolutely,
discussion. Yeah.
absolutely,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Lesley.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Bye-bye.